Hello and welcome, and happy Valentine's Day if you're watching this on the day that it's uploaded. I am struggling. I have rewritten this same scene. It's essentially two scenes within a chapter. There's part 1 and part 2. And part 2 is definitely the more interesting part theoretically, but it's not happening. I've rewritten this scene like 8 times. So I have busted out some wine, and I figured I would vlog, because I missed you guys. I mean, you probably haven't missed me. I have so much pre-scheduled content, like, I have not had to pick up my camera, really. I've done some, like, updates and things like that, but it's been really nice. Like, I really feel like I set myself up for success in February, and it's been really nice. It's appreciated. But I did miss you, and so I figured I would make a little bit of an update. Bad timing as far as my writing's going, like, I just cannot get this scene to not be boring, and there is absolutely no reason. Like, eventually y'all will see this and you'll realize that there is absolutely no reason for this scene to be boring, and it won't be boring, hopefully, by the time you read it. But if it is, it's not supposed to be. I guess I should stop and pause in case you're randomly coming across this and this is your first video from me, or you're new. Hello, my name is Jade. I am a cozy political fantasy writer working on my sequel to my first book, The Solstice Court. Here she is. Queer normative, deals with neutrality, very cozy, autumnal vibes. The second book is happening, it's coming, but it's also frustrating me. I feel like I have to write this scene again, and that's like a maddening thought. But I do have wine, so I guess I could do that for myself. Okay, before I write the scene, let me talk about a little bit why it's boring, because I feel like I come across a lot of boring scenes initially in my writing, and once I pinpoint what I think is boring about it, I remember this in the revision process because I had quite a few scenes that were boring. Some of them got just like ripped out entirely, but a lot of them just needed to be tweaked or were missing like a component. I am in the I want to get this solidly down stage. I am doing a little bit of polishing, but mostly I'm making sure that this is exactly how I want it to be to go to my editor, so my personal best. But this chapter, this scene is just not flowing. So let's break it down without spoiling any of that for you, because we're pretty far into the book, which means that nothing can be boring. Okay, so I'm gonna check my character's motivations. I have all of my character arcs in my notebook, so I'm going to go specifically, if you must know, not that you even asked, I'm gonna look at Ambrose and be like, are you doing everything you're supposed to be doing? Are you feeling good, buddy? He's feeling good. He's doing, okay, it's not Ambrose. Sure, he'd be thrilled to know it's not Ambrose. It's always Kez. It's Kez. It's always Kez. Kez is my problem child. Ambrose has challenges while I'm writing him. Akaika usually flows pretty easily. He's not a problem. There's one character I find incredibly easy, but I don't want to spoil anything for book 1, so I won't talk about them. Kez, spoiler alert, my main character doesn't die in book 1. And I think she's holding up this scene. She always does that. She doesn't want to do anything. She literally just wants to relax. This girl wants to do none of it, and she has to do all of it. That's literally the conflict of the book. Okay, I'm gonna evaluate, and then I'm gonna come back. It's gonna be short. I just need to like look it over really quickly. I'm rewriting the scene. I know where this scene needs to end. I don't need to pull out plot threads, but I need to pull out some details later, so I'm gonna make notes for myself, but I'm not going back. If I go back, I won't hit this scene for a very long time, and that's all I want to do, is avoid this. I am going to completely rewrite this scene, and I'm going to be outlining it so I know how to get to my last plot point of the scene. Not of the whole book, just the scene, because like scenes also have plot points, right? Unless you pants the entire thing, which I originally did for this entire series, but I've since folded it into a structure that makes sense once I knew my ending and I knew where I wanted to go, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to do it for a scene. My end goal, my destination is known. The destination, the end of this scene, is a plot point for the book, so I have to stick that landing. So knowing the end goal is good. Sorry. We went out to dinner. It was a very nice dinner. We had like a Valentine's Day dinner. I have been consuming the wine. If I am rambly, I feel like that's practically branding at this point. So the other thing I need to figure out is my status quo of this scene. So it's like a book's plot points condensed down. I need my status quo. What was happening before this scene? Where are my characters' headspaces at? Kez is annoyed, and I can't tell you anything else. I'm so sorry. But it's really important to know that Kez is annoyed, where her headspace is. Kezra annoyed is petty. She is petty. She can get a little bit pouty, and so she's going to be going into this in that sense. My desk is glass, so I literally put this in like dry erase marker, and it's been so helpful. One of my best purchases I ever made was a glass desk. Pouty, she's frustrated, annoyed. She's also feeling boxed in, which makes her lash out, which is how I want her. So honestly, when I say it's Kez, I mean it's me not tuning into Kez's emotions, which you don't need to talk about how much that happens. I can't tell you about anything else emotion-wise, so I'm just gonna brainstorm here, and then I'll, click into the next little bit. I'm sorry, it's a sequel. Like, what do you want? I mean, possibly spoilers, but you're not getting those. We have the status quo, and then because it's a scene, we have a little plot point that leads to the midpoint of the scene, which is the pivot into my second scene. The scenes are like a couplet. They complement each other. They kind of are one scene, but there's a break in between that makes it a very different situation. Within that point is where I think I'm losing some of the stress. I need to add a time pressure to one of my other characters. There is a larger time pressure. Right now, it's within a day, and I need it to be within hours. Like, I need to cut it down. I don't want any external pressures in this scene because I feel like that could get really problematic. The consequences need to feel immediate, so I need to raise the stakes, which the stakes are pretty high, but I need it to be felt, so I need to really think about the worst case scenario. The second to worst case scenario. We got the second to worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is not happening. No one will function if that happens. So second to worst case scenario, time pressure, pivot, and tuning into Kez's emotions here. I know how she's going to react to this pivot. She's doing something different, and because of how she's interacted with a different character, there is going to be a little bit more. I have a lot more written out, just so you know. What I'm saying to you is bare bones. Essentially, I know my end point. I'm working through my status quo of where they were and what their expectations are moving into the scene. Like, how are they expecting this scene to go? And then I have something that interjects. I would say it's more of a catalyst than a climax. There's an interjection point. A catalyst enters the scene, disrupts the status quo of the scene, of what they think they're walking into. Then we move into reactionary, which leads me to my pivot point, my climax of the scene, and it needs to be so that nothing can be the same at the end of this scene, at the end of this chapter. It can't be anything like the last chapter. Okay, I think I am ready to write this scene for the 9th time. I feel like I've just kind of been throwing things at the wall, and this time I actually just kind of like sat down and really contemplated and turned you off and on when I needed to, and I'm feeling better about this. I'm hoping that Kez does what she needs to do in the scene. It's very hard to make her feel authentic while getting her to do exactly what I need her to do for a scene, if that makes sense. I'm gonna go ahead and write this scene out, and then I'll check back in. Okay, I think it's how I want it. This is working actually better than I thought it was going to. One of my other characters plays a lot nicer, so it's moving forward. I'm liking the dialogue. I'm liking the back and forth. I don't know if I'm liking anything else. The story is moving, but I feel like dialogue is the only thing moving it, but I'll figure that out later. I'm gonna finish this scene, and then I can do some things to make myself like this differently, better. Words elude me. Let's go ahead and write more. Okay, this is rough, but this is actually what I want. I'm gonna do the pass through. I'm gonna go ahead and polish it because right now it's not at the same stage as the rest of it. I'm not making this my final draft or anything like that. Like, this is going to be looked at by an editor. I just need it, when I read it back through, it fits in and it makes sense and it works with the others, or it's not gonna play right. It's not gonna play with them being the other scenes. Sorry. I'm gonna identify what I'm still missing out of this scene. Not going to get more wine. I don't usually write while drinking. This was already just because I was out at dinner and we had a drink. My mindset there was, well, why wouldn't you just have another? And I do think that it worked, but the spelling errors are erring. Let me read this back and then kind of talk it out to myself and to you. We're gonna talk and then I'll know what I want to do next. Okay, so I can't cite my sources here because honestly, I could cite wine. These aren't my original ideas that I'm throwing at you, but this is something I've learned and that I've found to be true. There are about 3 things in a scene that make it work and make it interesting. One is dialogue. Are the characters going back and forth? Is there banter? Is it interesting? Is it flowing? The second is internal monologue. What are the characters thinking and how are they flavoring the scene? Some of that can come a lot later in like the prose work of it all, like in a different draft, but you should still have a sense of like where your character's mindset is. I should be able to feel the poutiness and frustration in Kez because that's what's going to bring her forward in the scene. And then finally, action. How are they moving through the scene? Can you feel the scenery? Is there things around them that they're interacting with that could be interesting if maybe you're just breaking it up for the flow of like seeing a scene? Right now I have a lot of dialogue. It's very dialogue heavy. When people use the word white room syndrome, what really they're saying is like your characters aren't interacting with their environment. How is their perception? Because these things do go together. What is Kez's perception of this room? How are they interacting with the scene? How can you see the scene based off of how they're coloring it, which goes into their internal monologue? And then I feel like the dialogue's fine. I think that I do have Kez's emotions in here. I think what I'm missing right now is the scenery, which I do want to add some in just because I'm really trying to get to know this location and I'm trying to get to know this scene, and I will have more drafts to discover and explore it. As much as I want to just kind of move on from the scene, I also want it to fit in. I'm going to go back through, brush through, and see like what things she can be interacting with, what things this other person can be doing and exploring. That's going to also be different. The contrast between these two perspectives are going to wildly change the surroundings. Do I have lipstick on my teeth? If so, that's not fair. I hope not, because it's too late. I'm gonna do that and then I'll check back in and probably end this just because, you know, it's night, right? It's not supposed to be super intensive or anything like that. While I finish polishing up this scene, I would love to know what your thoughts are on scenes. Like, what are some of your favorite scenes? What makes them favorites? What is it that stands out to you about a scene? If that's too many questions, that's fine. But I am really curious. I want to know what your thoughts are because I'm not an authority on any of this. I've written one book and I like it. I like it a lot, but I'm still learning. Other perspectives is honestly what got me through my first book. If I hadn't have had beta readers, editors, alpha readers, my friend is a poet. Get yourself a poet. Honestly, she did a like prose edit. She really pushed the prose out of me. I'll link her down below. Her name's Lindsay Lamp. Lindsay Lamp Poetry is her Instagram. Let me know what you think about scenes while I polish up this one. Okay, I did my darndest. I haven't read over it again, but that is actually part of like my routine is that I read the last scene that I wrote before I write the next, or the last chapter or whatever. I'll be reading it again with fresher eyes. Yeah, but I guess that's the end of this video. Thanks for joining me. Not gonna heavily edit this, so whatever you're seeing, you know, I have other writing content, so I will link my Night Write playlist down below. Oh, my book is also on sale right now, everywhere but Amazon. Yeah, here's that. It might be over by the time you're seeing this. If so, I'm sorry. If you are catching the end of my Valentine's Day sale, my swoon at the Solstice Court sale, then that's great. That's fantastic. It's also on Kobo Plus, so you can get it free there. And then, of course, requesting it at your libraries helps a bundle. And then it's also on Bookshop bookshops.com now too. I'll have all the links to that below. I also did become a bookshops.com affiliate. It's really easy to do if you are a booktuber or book influencer and you don't want to support Amazon. You can sign up to be an affiliate with bookshops.com, and so every time you mention a book, you can put it down and you can make like your own customizable lists and stuff like that. Just anything to kind of disrupt Amazon feels really good. I have absolutely no beef with indie authors or readers using Amazon whatsoever. I'm just trying to open up as many opportunities to leave as possible because I know so many of us are not actually keen on being part of that machine. When given the opportunity, I love to try and get out of it. I'm getting on a tangent. I just really hate Amazon. And my book's on sale and I have links down below. Please check that out. If you made it this far into the video, go ahead and leave a wine emoji unless you do not partake or do not want to, in which case you can go ahead and leave the little teapot because that's usually what I drink while I write. Whether you do or not, I hope you're enjoying the sun or more stars wherever you are, and until next time, bye!